Hello, it's Ashley here. So in this video, I wanted to talk through our logic of designing and developing a couple of the interactions that we built out for the eLearning Heroes Challenge at the Articulate User Conference. So from the start, our instructional design approach really focused on identifying the key elements. So based on the provided source material, we really wanted to focus on four core components that we felt were essential for parents to understand when having these conversations with their kids. Rather than overwhelming the learner, we opted to present the content in a straightforward tab-based interaction that allows them to explore at their own pace. And so when we're looking at the content here from an instructional design perspective, our senior instructional designer, Gilda, drafted the content for each of these tabs. So we've got 1 tab, 2 tab, 3, and 4. And from this content, what we did was build out a simple click to reveal. Now, we didn't stop there. So to really drive the lessons home, we crafted a scenario-based interaction. And the scenario involved a child approaching their parent about encountering some content that made them feel uncomfortable online. This placed the learner in the role of the parent through a series of realistic interactions with their child. At each decision point, the parent had to choose how they would respond, assessing their understanding of the previously covered content. So each decision point allowed the learner, which was the parent in this case, to apply empathy, understanding, and online safety advice in context. And so then we crafted the options to include an optimal approach, a partially correct, and even outright incorrect responses. This allowed the learner to practice applying the concepts and identify the immediate effects of their choices. So how did we go about doing this? Let's take a look at the dev perspective. So on the development side, we leveraged Storyline 360's features to really bring this design to life. The tab interaction and scenario-based interactions were built using a combination of triggers, layers, and states. The one thing that we found a bit tricky was finding the proper character and expressions, appropriate expressions. Considering that this was a child, it was a bit tricky. So if you look at the characters in the content library and filter by photographic, which is the design style that we wanted, you'll notice that there are currently no children. So what we had to do was supplement the Articulate content library characters by going out to Shutterstock and identifying a character that had a wide enough range of expressions that would fit with the context that we had. Looking a little closer at the two interactions, the tabbed interaction was a super simple click to reveal. So we have 4 groups here on our timeline. These are our cards or our tabs. And then all we're doing here is setting some triggers to show the layer. And within show layer, the learner has the ability to hide the layer. And then we have a little bit of conditional logic to prevent the next button from enabling until all of the layers have been explored. Now, with the branching scenario, where the conversation with the parent and child adapts based on the learner selection as to how the parent responds, we had to do a little bit more work. So it really started with the script. So our senior instructional designer drafted all of the script for the initial scenario, the first decision point with the responses that the parent and child have, second decision point, and then the final statement. So that's really where we started. We drafted all the content first, and then we went into programming. From a programmatic perspective, as I previously mentioned with the character, we needed a range of expressions because we wanted their expression to change with the conversation. So if we select our character and look at the states, you'll see that we have a normal expression, explaining, happy, sad, and indifferent. So we'll come back to these expressions in a moment. But here we have our initial scenario, which is the dialogue of the child saying, "Hey, can I talk to you?" The parent saying, "Of course," and then the child presenting them with what they saw on YouTube. And then we have a button for how would you respond. When the learner selects that button, they go to scenario 1. And so here we have 3 options. They can either empathize, express concern, or ask for more details. And then the important thing here is that we wanted to have the show layers be different options. So based on their selection, if they choose empathize, they go to option 1, concern goes to option 2, and more details goes to option 3. So simple show layer triggers. And then when we look at the options, we are presented, so option 1 presents them with some more dialogue and a prompt to how would you respond next. Option 2 does a couple of things. We have the same continued dialogue with a prompt to continue and respond next, but we also have set the character to an indifferent state when the timeline reaches the cue point, and the cue point is set to when the child dialogue occurs. And we did that with the various options. So option 3, when the child begins talking, they change to a sad expression. Then all of the how would you respond next buttons will go to scenario 2. And we've done a similar approach where we get 3 options. Each option has an adapted dialogue based on their selection. And then at the end of the dialogue, we have a jump to show layer of the final feedback. So at the end, we set up a trigger that says show layer final feedback when the timeline ends. Final feedback gives them a little bit of feedback and the option to start the interaction over again. And finally, the third interaction that we built out for this project is an AI-powered interaction, and Garima will be talking about how we built that out in more detail in the next video.